Hey, welcome to day 4 of our Greenstyle Creations Lumia hoodie, zip-up hoodie, sew along. I'm really excited because today is going to be the day we're going to put the yoke on our back. We're going to put it together, attach the sleeves, attach the hood. So we'll basically have a finished garment. We just need to add the cuffs, the band, and the zipper. So this is a big day, and I'm really, really excited for it. So let's just jump right in, shall we? To start with, we're going to need the back yoke. This is all hood piece. Okay, so here's our back and here's our back yoke. Let's start with those pieces. I did get my other thumbhole cuff done, yay, and I seam ripped all that top stitching, which usually seam ripping top stitching goes super easy, but that stuff was in there good and it was not wanting to come out. All right, so first things first, we need to take the back part of our yoke. So you'll see the part that, here's your shoulder pieces here. We need this part that slopes down. It's got kind of a curve to it. So we need to find the center of that, and we will pin it. And next we need to find the center of our back piece. So find and pin that as well. All right, now what we're going to do, we'll add this camera in. Okay, we are going to line our center back pieces, yoke and back, together. So get those centers lined up, raw edges together, and then we're just going to follow the curve around here. Let's attach this one to here. Pretty sure it needs to go all the way over. Let me just double check. Nope. So it doesn't go all the way over. That's good, because I was going to stretch it like crazy. Ending at the notch. And of course I cut the notch out when I put my piping on. Whoops. It's okay. Let's do the one-to-one there. All right. Same thing over here. So if you did not cut your notch off, or you didn't, you were smarter than me and you marked it, then you'll know exactly where to stop it at. But I'm just kind of doing it right till it's a one-to-one without really stretching, and that worked out pretty well. So, okay. So now that we have all that pinned and all the raw edges up together, we're going to sew along this line here that we just pinned using a 3/8" seam allowance. Now, because my piping is on there, I did a 3/8" seam allowance with my front, and I wasn't super happy with how much of the piping it took off. So I'm actually going to do probably a smaller seam allowance on this one. See if I can get a little bit more of that piping to show. And I'm guessing really what it was more than anything with the front is I just wasn't paying attention to my seam allowance when I was putting it on. So it happens. Lift this up and see if the binding was a little bit better. Piping. This one's a little better, maybe. Not really. Like you can just barely see it, which is probably right. I don't know. I just feel like I would like it to be a little bit more noticeable than just this little line. Maybe I'm crazy. Chances are I probably am. But okay. So I think if I were to do this again with binding, I would want my binding a little bit thicker than it recommended, just for it to show a little bit more than it did. But look at how this lines up. Not 100% perfect, but that was not planned. Awesome. I love when that happens. Okay, so now that we've got that done, you can press the seam up and then top stitch it. I'm not going to, because I think like with the other one, this wouldn't be as hard because it's just, or as crazy because it's just going over the side. But probably what I will do though is after the garment's finished, I will iron it just because my iron's not out right now and I don't want to get it out. So next is we need to attach the front to our back. And we're going to do that at the, those are sleeves. Okay, let's get both of our front pieces out here. All right, we're going to do that at the shoulder here. So we want to do right sides together, match up, line up that shoulder piece, and you'll know that you've got it right because your arm curve, I know it's like arm scythe, I think is how you say it. I don't know. So we're just going to call your arm curve. It's going to line up. So we're going to attach that 3/8" seam allowance. There we go. Okay, and then the same with the other side here. Just line up those shoulder seams. And then 3/8" seam allowance, just so those are edges. If you're using a regular sewing machine and not a serger, just make sure you have a stretch stitch or a zigzag stitch or a lightning stitch. If it were me, I would probably do a lightning stitch and then go back through on the seam allowance and just tack that seam allowance down with a zigzag stitch just to give it a little bit of extra security, but definitely don't have to. Okay, so here is our front and our back. They are now attached. We're so close. Okay. So what we need to do now is we need to attach our arm. So here they are. They're like, finally. Okay, this bump is for the back, I believe. Yeah, it is, because I remember I usually put the markings on my front because sometimes they do like a single notch for a front and a double notch for a back. And when it's like that, I just do a single notch on the front. So that's how I remember where my sleeves need to go, because I always do that. But this one, they had the notch going towards the back, because I remember thinking, oh no, I hope that doesn't mess me up. So we're just going to attach the middle notch to the shoulder seam, and then these raw edges, line them up, and we're just going to sew right along that raw edges, 3/8 all the way around the sleeve. So I did there was I just made sure that seam for the yoke was going up instead of down. And then I need to make sure I do the same thing when I get to this other side, or when I do the other side, because that's going to just help keep that wanting to go up and not move around too much, since I didn't top stitch it. I think if I didn't do the piping, I definitely would have top stitched. Okay, so there is our first sleeve. We need to do the same thing to the other side. Okay, same thing, just lining up those raw edges between the sleeve and the bodice. And then 3/8 inch seam allowance. I'm just going to sew around to connect the two. Sorry, I'm chewing gum. Okay, again, just making sure that seam is going up towards the... Didn't like that seam. Or didn't like something. Who knows? Okay. So now we've got our sleeves attached. So our front and back attached, our sleeves attached. All right. Next, we need to sew down the side. So we're going to take our sleeve and we're going to fold it in half. So we're going to match the bottom corners up, match the side seam up here where the sleeve meets. We're going to sew down and down the bottom, making sure to catch that pocket when we get to it, because that needs to be attached in the side seam. So 3/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, so I'm getting to the pocket here. And since I didn't baste, I just want to make sure that I got it all lined up. Okay, so there's one side put together. Now we need to do the same thing to the other sleeve. So just fold it in half. Those sleeve end corners matching up. So it makes sure these side seams are matched up, and then just sew it down. So since I don't pin, I do a lot of stopping and starting and making sure things aren't wrinkled or stretched out. Perfect. Okay, so there are the two side seams. So now when we turn it out, we should have the beginnings of our jacket. Oh, it's so cute. Let's see. I love it. Once the band's on, it'll be nice and long. The head. It's so cute. Look at the pockets. Eek. Okay. Stop messing around. We got work to do. I can't help myself. I love, I try and tell myself, wait till the end when you have the final project or the product. But no, I'm like, come on, show me what's next. Okay. So now I'm doing the hood option. If you're doing the cowl option, make sure to follow the instructions for that. But next we need to add our hood pieces. So when I first cut this out, I thought it was saying that this centerpiece was optional. And then I was like, hang on a second. If the centerpiece is optional, then I'm going to have a tiny hood if I don't use the centerpiece because you're missing like 4 inches here. So I decided not to make it a color block, but to just add the same color so that it's just a hood. I mean, we could do the color block. No, we'll just keep how we have it. Okay, so what we're going to do is line these raw edges up, matching the notch from your centerpiece to the notch on your head. And we're just going to sew them around. So you can pin it if you want. I'll be a good example today. I'll clip it. I don't use pins. Pins are always out for blood. So clips are the way to go. Okay, so now we're just going to do 3 8-inch seam allowance all the way around to attach that middle piece. Okay, and then we're just going to turn it the right sides are out. Then we're going to attach, do the same thing to the other side. So right sides together, just making sure that these ends are lined up so that you don't accidentally attach it the wrong way, because that is no fun. Okay, 3 8-inch seam allowance. just like with the other side, we're just lining it up and sewing it together. All right, so there is our outer hood. All done. You can top stitch those down if you want. Again, I don't think I will. I haven't top stitched anything else, so we'll just let it all be. All right, and then we need to do the same to this side, the liner hood. There's so many pieces. Okay, so right sides together. Yeah, I accidentally put my rivet grommet holes there. Is it rivet? I don't know. My brain is like, burp. Okay. Same thing as with the other one. We're just going to line up everything. Here we go. Here's my notches, I think. Yeah. Okay. Match up the top corner of the curve. Or 3/8 seam allowance, and sew that together. Sorry, I know it's loud, but if I turn the volume down, I always forget to turn it back up. So okay, turn it right sides out. And then put this other hood on, right sides together, making sure that those corners line up. Okay, 3/8 seam allowance. Okay, so now we have our main hood and our liner. Okay, with right sides together. So I'm going to turn my main hood inside out, or my main fabric inside out, lining up those middle seams. We are going to sew with right sides together, pin and stitch the remaining hood piece, the other side of the hood insert. Okay, so apparently we're not going to do what I think we should do. So zigzag stitch or serger stitch along the bottom edge of the hood lining. Okay. So this is a little different than what I'm used to, but I think it's because we're adding that zipper in. So search this. Okay, so all I did was just search this bottom part of the liner. Okay, now next, with right sides together, pin and stitch the hood to the neckline as shown. I'm trying to see where the liner for the hood goes on. Pin and stitch the remaining collar piece or hood piece as shown. Oh, okay. Turn the bottom finish edged up before sewing. Okay. Apparently, now we're just going to. Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry. Like I said, I'm a visual person. So I didn't fully understand what this wanted me to do. What we need to do is we need to now put the main hood onto our bodice, onto our neck, because let me make sure that's right. Because what's going to happen is the zipper is going to go up into the hood, and then we're going to cover the zipper up with the hood lining, is what I am gathering from this. So we need to put the hood right sides together. I'm going to actually find the middle back here. Ooh. And then find the middle of my hood. Okay, and then attach that to the middle back, and then just stretch it out. Well, not stretch it out, but just attach those or line up those raw edges. We will clip. We've got a nice curve here. There's going to be a little space here. And that's what it shows in the picture as well. So it looks like if you use the collar, it'll go all the way across, but the hood has a little bit of a space. But I don't think it's supposed to, so maybe we'll just kind of stretch it to make sure it goes to the end. Because it should be, yeah, okay. So we're not going to have a space. Maybe you're supposed to. It doesn't look like. Well, it looks like it in the picture, but it doesn't say it in the instructions. And then the picture for the collar doesn't show a space. So when I actually spread it out, it matches without having to stretch. So, okay. So now what we're going to do is attach this together, sewing along these raw edges, using a 3/8" seam allowance. Now it's always told me to use a stretch stitch, and it's not doing that. It's not saying stitch or serge. It's just saying stitch. But then, so let me make sure it doesn't say to open that stitch up. It doesn't, so. Okay, so I'm just gonna search it on. I'll let you know if that was the wrong decision. Okay, create and seam allowance. All right. And that is the end of today. We did everything we set out to accomplish. And I think we did pretty good. Not too long. We've got the basic outline of a hoodie. Let's see, or the basic shell make of it. I never wear hoods. But look at, I like how high this one goes. So tomorrow we are going to add in our zipper. We're going to do our bands, the bottom band, add in our cuffs. There's 2 of those. And then the lining for our hood, and we'll be done. Yay! I'm super excited. Thank you all so much for hanging out and sticking around with me. This is actually not as bad as I was worried it was going to be. There are a few things that I'd probably change just with the piping, but I'm loving it so far. It's awesome. I can't wait to finish it. Okay, so I will see you tomorrow where we will add the zipper and finish it up. See you later.